Distributing the vaccines against COVID-19 is the most pressing challenge of our time, and nobody wins the race until everyone is protected. This infographic shows the importance of the Covax vaccine sharing facility. The issue of vaccine inequality has resurfaced once again as new findings show richer nations are overstocked with jabs that could be rolled out and benefit the Southern Hemisphere.
New analysis shows that wealthy countries could potentially have a surplus of more than 1 billion doses of COVID-19 vaccines by the end of the year that are not designated as donations to poorer nations. The data shows that vaccine stocks in Western countries have reached 500 million, with 360 million not earmarked for donations. By the end of the year, these countries will have a potential of 1.2 billion surplus vaccine shots, with the overwhelming majority not earmarked for donations. Vaccine inequality has been denounced by many prominent health figures and officials, while Covax had initially aimed to provide 2 billion to people in 190 countries this year. However, wealthy countries' deals with vaccine manufacturers have limited the vaccine's availability to Covax and led to vaccine hoarding.
I'm joined live from Bath in England by Dr. Bharat Pankhania, who's a senior clinical lecturer at the University of Exeter Medical School. Dr. Pankhania, thank you so much for joining us here again today on The Edge. And
my pleasure.
After a long summer, the news that 1.2 billion coronavirus doses that have been put on the shelf by countries around the world might have collected by the end of the year. This is a shocking figure for vaccines that aren't being delivered into the arms of people.
It's worse than shocking, Andy, because we all know that we are not well unless everybody else is well too. And this is a failure to work and think globally and deliver globally, despite making promises. Furthermore, it is also a clear indicator of failings, which is the poorer nations have been kept in the receive donations mode, receive little gifts and keep them vulnerable to receiving gifts. What we should have done, what we need to do is also enable poorer countries who have the technology, who have the ability to also manufacture the vaccines, create employment, create ability to make and manufacture vaccines. So it is a double failing. One, a failure to donate, and a second, a failure to enable the countries in other parts of the world to manufacture them, even if it is to manufacture them under license and supervision.
And in terms of the manufacturing under license and supervision, now this would obviously open some doors, but it still doesn't negate the fact that countries are taking hold of these vaccines and not distributing them. This is a very strange imbalance, is it not?
It's a terrible imbalance because the pharmaceutical companies were able to manufacture and invent and do all the trials and succeed with the trials with public money. Having succeeded in making the vaccines, they then go ahead and receive orders. And the orders all come from the richer nations: Canada, United States, European Union, United Kingdom, Israel. And they agree to supply on a first-come, first-based basis. And then when the poorer nations, the African nations, go to the vaccine manufacturers and say, we would also like to buy the vaccines, the vaccine manufacturer says, sorry, the order book for 2021 is full. We cannot provide you with any vaccines until next year. So it is really a failing at many, many levels: government levels, international levels, and pharmaceutical companies taking orders on a first-come, first-served basis.
Now, unusually, in other situations where there is a disparity like this, there are penalties involved, and I can't think of a specific example right now, but if this were to happen in another field, then there would be penalties against those hoarders. Is the problem that it is very much a goodwill effort, looking at the health policy internationally, and does that need to change in the future?
It very much needs to change in the future. The World Health Organization, Gavi, and other international organizations set up to serve all member states needs to be strengthened, better supported, and better funded. Unfortunately, for quite a long time, we had President Trump from the United States shutting all the doors and putting America first policy. And to be truthful, the European Union and the UK were also, whilst not explicitly saying so, doing a EU-UK first policy. We need to change this. And if we do not, eventually we will get non-cooperation from other nations. So when we go to the other nations and say, reduce your carbon footprint, we have got a global warming emergency, they will say, not talking to you.
So this is really something that we've got to get our heads together. Unfortunately, those powerful nations that we talk about, if they don't like something that's being imposed on them, they walk away from the deal. So this really is a cry to humanity to get our act together, and in so many areas, as you mentioned, climate change as well, but that's a different topic. Now, interestingly, the former British Prime Minister Gordon Brown has referred to this as an arms race, a different, not an arms of munitions, but getting vaccines into the arms of people. How true are those words?
It's very much true, and Gordon Brown is doing a sterling job in advocating that we donate and use the vaccines that we have in our armamentum to help and enable other nations to also benefit from what we have stockpiled and suppress infections internationally. It is a very good initiative. I just hope that he will be successful.
Well, let's hope that this notion of a healthy arms race catches on, and that this pandemic is brought to a close as soon as possible. Dr. Bharat Pankhania, that's all we've got time for today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us today on The Edge.